The sun was barely up when Jesse Calloway, a 19-year-old stable boy with more heart than sense, found a wounded horse stumbling into the yard behind Clayton's livery, its flanks streaked with sweat and blood, its saddle marked by bullet holes and dust from the open desert. He knew right away it belonged to someone running from trouble, maybe trouble itself. But when the animal collapsed near the trough, he couldn't just watch it die. So he grabbed a bucket, filled it with water, and whispered calm words as he cleaned the wounds with trembling hands, hoping no one saw. The town of Red Hollow didn't forgive kindness shown to the wrong man, especially not when there was a bounty involved. And before long, Sheriff McCready's men noticed the stranger's horse tied in the back, and the first question that left their mouths wasn't who's hurt, but who brought it here. Jesse tried to explain that he was only helping the animal, that no outlaw had come through, but they didn't believe him. One of the deputies, a thick man named Dodd, slammed him against the stall door and said, "You think you're doing God's work helping a killer's beast?" Then the fists came, hard and fast, until Jesse's lips split and his vision blurred. He hit the date, clutching his ribs, while the sheriff ordered the horse to be put down in case it carried disease. But when Jesse saw the animal trembling, eyes wide with pain, something inside him broke. He shoved himself between the men and the horse and shouted, "You'll have to shoot me first." It earned him another beating and a night in the jailhouse, bruised, bleeding, and accused of aiding a wanted gunslinger named Colt Avery, a man with a price on his head high enough to make any fool turn informer. That night, word spread fast. Stable boy helped the outlaw's horse. By morning, even the preacher's wife wouldn't meet his eyes, and the townsfolk spat near his feet when he passed, muttering that he was no better than the killer who'd robbed the Wells Fargo wagon 2 nights back. They said the gunslinger would never return for his horse, but Jesse kept the cell window open, half hoping, half dreading he might. At sundown, with his bruises still fresh, the sheriff hauled him to the yard, ready to make an example. Said he'd be whipped for aiding an outlaw, that the town needed to see what happens to traitors. The crowd gathered. Men, women, even children watched as Jesse was tied to the post, the leather strap cracking against his back, each blow tearing through flesh and pride alike. And through it all, he didn't cry out once. Somewhere in the dust beyond town, thunder rolled, not from the sky but from hooves. The first shot came before anyone saw him, a clean, cold crack that split the air and sent McCready's hat spinning into the dirt. When the crowd turned, the gunslinger was already there, dark coat, lean frame, eyes like stone. Colt Avery, the man they called the Devil's Hand, sitting astride a fresh black stallion, his rifle steady and his voice colder than the wind. "Untie him," he said, and no one moved, until Dodd tried reaching for his revolver and fell before he could clear leather, a bullet through his wrist. "You beat a boy for mercy," Colt said, dismounting. "Now feel what mercy costs." He cut the ropes himself, caught Jesse before he fell, and set him against the trough, his hand rough but gentle, eyes flicking over the wounds with quiet fury. The sheriff raised his hand to signal his men, but Colt's revolver was already drawn. "You want your justice," Colt said, voice rising like thunder. "Come earn it." No one dared move. The gunslinger holstered his weapon slow, grabbed Jess's arm, and helped him to his feet. "You saved my horse," he said. "I don't forget debts." They walked out of town under the red glow of sunset, 2 silhouettes against the dying light, the townsfolk too scared to follow. That night, in a canyon 10 miles east, Jesse woke beside a small fire, his body aching but alive. Colt was cleaning his revolver, quiet, eyes distant. "They'll come for you now," Jesse said softly. "They'll come for us both," Colt corrected. "You still want to help the wrong kind of man." Jesse stared into the flames and said, "I helped a dying creature. I'd do it again." The gunslinger smiled for the first time, slow and tired. "Then you ain't the wrong kind of man." At dawn, the sound of hooves came again. McCready's posse, rifles ready, smoke already rising from the hills. Colt handed Jesse a revolver. "If you run, you'll live. If you stay, you might not." Jesse took the gun, checked the chamber like he'd seen older men do, and said, "If I run, who'll stop them from killing another boy for doing right?" Colt's grin hardened into respect. The fight was quick and brutal. Colt moved like a shadow, firing clean and precise, every shot a judgment. Jesse missed more than he hit, but when McCready came charging with his shotgun, Jesse's hand steadied, and one bullet sent the sheriff sprawling into the dust. When the smoke cleared, the canyon was silent but for the wind. Colt stewed over the bodies, his side bleeding, his breath heavy. "You did fine, kid," he said, then stumbled, dropping to one knee. Jesse caught him, blood soaking through his shirt. "You can't die," he said. Colt just smiled faintly. "Every man does, but not every man earns it." He pressed a folded piece of paper into Jesse's hand. "Ride south. There's a ranch near the border. Tell him Colt sent you." By the time Jesse looked up, the gunslinger's eyes had closed, his chest still, the wind carrying dust over him like a blanket. Jesse buried him under the lone mesquite, marked the grave with a small wooden cross, and took the reins of the horse, the same one he'd saved, and rode toward the horizon. Days later, when bounty men came looking, they found only the grave and a boy's tracks leading south. In Red Hollow, no one spoke of what happened, but some nights, when thunder rolled across the plains, the folks swore they could hear gunfire echo from the hills, and they'd say the devil's hand was riding again. Years passed. The ranch Colt had spoken of turned out real, a small place run by an old war widow who gave Jesse work and never asked questions. He worked quiet, learned the land, and every night before sleep, he cleaned the revolver Colt had given him, not as a killer's tool but as a promise kept. One morning, a rider came with news. Sheriff McCready's replacement had been gunned down by a stranger with eyes like fire, riding a horse with a scar on its flank. Jesse didn't say a word. He just looked toward the horizon, where the sky met the desert, and whispered, "Rest easy, Colt." Then he saddled his horse, the same animal he'd once saved, and rode east, because in a world that punished kindness, someone had to keep it alive. And by sundown, the legend of the stable boy who rode with the devil's hand had begun.